Earlier today, a Georgia teenager pleaded guilty to carrying out a deadly shooting at his high school nearly 2 years ago.
Mr. Gray, you understand all 55 charges?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand that you will be pleading guilty to the entire indictment? Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. That was 16-year-old Colt Gray addressing the court this morning. He was facing 55 counts, including malice murder in the 2024 attack that killed 2 students and 2 teachers at Apalachee High School. Nearly a dozen other people were injured.
He will now avoid a trial, and a judge will decide whether Gray will spend the rest of his life in prison with or without parole.
NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist joining us now from outside of the courthouse in Winder, Georgia. So, Aaron, this hearing expected to last 3 days. It started off, as we just heard, with the judge asking Gray a number of questions about his mental health. Can you walk us through what happened today and what can we expect over the next several days?
Well, Sam, court resumed here just a few minutes ago after a short break this afternoon, and we're really in the sentencing phase of this proceeding, right? We are now listening to witnesses being called by the state, by the district attorney here in Barrow County, and this is the part of the presentation where the prosecutors will lay out what they believe are the reasons to support what they will ultimately recommend as a sentence for Colt Gray. This, of course, comes after a very emotional morning where we heard victim impact statements. In particular, we heard from the family members of Mason Schermerhorn. He was the 14-year-old, one of the 14-year-old young men who was killed in this school shooting. His mother spoke, as well as his older sisters. I want you to hear part of what his sisters told the court and said directly to Colt Gray today.
Admittedly, I feel compassion for Colt, and I hate that. He is a product of 2 people that did not deserve the privilege of bringing life into this world. His actions are a testament to that.
You will always be remembered as a coward, a psychopath, a freak, because of what you decided to do.
Now, again, at the end of this hearing, the judge will make a decision about the sentence for Colt Gray. The minimum would be life in prison with parole. The maximum would be life in prison without parole. And it's worth noting too, Sam and Vicky, that Colt Gray's father was found guilty of charges against him for supplying a gun to his son that was ultimately used in that school shooting. He is set to be sentenced next week as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that momentarily. Aaron Gilchrist, thank you so much.
Let's go ahead and bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Cenedella now. So, Angela, this was a non-negotiated plea. What exactly does that mean? And also, as the judge weighs this sentence with or without parole, will the age of Colt Gray come into question, his mental health, perhaps?
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a different situation than usual. Usually when you hear of a guilty plea that's entered, it's part of a plea deal, right? Which means the prosecution and the defense has already agreed to some sort of sentence. That's usually the only reason why defendants will plead guilty. Okay. But in a case like this, what it means is the defense decided they didn't even want to go through the whole trial because the evidence is likely just so enormous against them. And so as a result, the judge is the one who will decide sentencing, just like in a normal trial. So we're just fast forwarding through all 55 counts and getting to the sentencing, as Aaron said. Now, with regards to the mitigating circumstances, right, you're exactly right. Those are the 2 things the judge will consider, which are mental health and age. He was only 14 years old at the time that this happened. Now, how much weight the judge really decides to give is dependent on how he feels, on the victim impact statements, on whether or not he believes that the mental health was really in jeopardy at that moment.
Gray's father, Colin Gray, also was convicted in a separate trial recently. And so I guess the question now becomes, Angela, because we've seen this with several different incidents in recent years. I believe Michigan was the first one where parents suddenly are being held accountable depending upon access to weapons and what the circumstances were like at home. Does this then add to a new legal precedent in terms of how is his father assessed?
Sam, absolutely, right? So the first time this happened, it seemed like a total anomaly. But given that we're starting to see this in different jurisdictions, we do expect this to spread across the country, because the question is really who was in the best position to stop this from happening. And in the case where parents are supplying the guns actively, right, and also providing no oversight, that can rise to a level of criminal negligence. Yeah. Now, that said, that bar is still really high. You don't expect to see this with parents across the country. But also civil liability remains on the table, and wrongful death lawsuits then can extend to these parents.
Yeah. Who was in a position to stop this? That's really powerful. Angela Cenedella, as always, we appreciate your legal insight.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.